Ms. Miller, could you please call the roll?
Chairman DeMaria,
Here.
Vice Chairman Albrecht,
Here.
Mr. Bushnell,
Here.
Mrs. Kiefer,
Here.
Mrs. Purdy,
Here.
Mrs. Sebeski,
Here.
Mr. Williams,
Here.
Ms. Torres, Ms. Maddock.
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Mr. Ian Lovejoy, City Councilman, here with us tonight. And did Anna leave? Oh, no, there she is. And our former school board liaison, Anna Spall, is here with us tonight. Thank you for being here, guys. Dr. McGorrick, do you have additions and deletions to the agenda?
Yes, we have a personnel addendum added to the consent agenda and a redistricting process update to the discussion agenda.
Thank you. Superintendent's announcements and spotlights. Do we have any this evening?
We do. We have quite a few.
Okay, I thought everybody was just here to see us.
Thank you, Dr. McGuirk, Chairman DeMaria. Good evening, other members of the board. Certainly good evening to all who are here with us tonight during our superintendent spotlights and announcements. We first want to begin with the spelling bee winners. Each year, Manassas City Public Schools conduct spelling bees, positioning our students to earn an opportunity to compete locally at the Prince William Regional Bee and ultimately at the Scripps National Spelling Bee, which is held annually in Washington, D.C. While we did not have anyone that advanced to the national contest tonight, we certainly would like to recognize the following students who won at their school level and did advance to the regional bee. First, we begin with Dean Elementary School, Arushi Chakravorty. From Hayden Elementary School, Emma Lindenfelser. And from Metz Middle School, Joshua Newland. Y'all might want to kind of cut that over there. These are excellent spellers. Yeah, kind of, yeah, that way a little bit. Yeah. You all want to take a picture? You okay? Okay. Parents, it's okay if you take pictures. It's all right.
I am not supposed to.
No?
1, 2, 3.
Parents.
Special moments. Congratulations. Those superb spellers. I do know how to spell that. Each year, the Virginia School Boards Association asks school divisions to submit 3 pieces of student art for their annual student art contest, which is held in conjunction with the Regional Spring Network Forums. 1 entry may be submitted for an elementary, middle, and high school student from each school division. Winning selections will be framed by the VSBA for display in the offices of the State Superintendent of Public Instruction and the Virginia School Boards Association on a rotating basis. The winning artwork is then returned to its owner at the Regional Spring Network Forum the following year. This year's forum was held March 9th in Fauquier County. The following MCPS students represented their schools very well with beautiful artwork and are here tonight to share their work with us. For the elementary level, we have Mysteries of Space by Christopher Faustino, a student at Mayfield. For middle school, we have 1 O'Clock by Bryn Fraser, a Met student. And our high school student, Taylor Briscoe from Osborne, Reflective Visions. Is she here? Yes. Okay, good. going to ask Taylor to grab hers. That's it with the ribbon on it. We should note, oh, she dropped her little ribbon there, Chairman. She got it. I should note that Taylor won second place for her submission. So hold it up so everybody can see it. Yeah, that's beautiful.
All right, one, two, three. Perfect.
There you go. You can leave it there, honey, if you want to. Actually, I'm going to ask Taylor to remain because she's also connected to our next spotlight. Two Osborne High School art students had their artwork accepted to the 12th annual Off the Wall, a juried exhibit at the Center for the Arts at the Candy Factory in Old Town Manassas. The exhibit is sponsored by Lockheed Martin and showcases artwork by students in area high schools. The exhibit ran from the holiday season through early February. So Taylor's piece was entitled Still Life in Color Pencil, so we congratulate her on that. And we also had Bridget Santos, another senior at Osborne. Bridget, can you come forward? Bridget's piece was entitled Kahlo and was done in graphite. So congratulations to both of you. Thank you.
One, two, three. One more. One, two, three.
Are there any mothers that like him?
It's okay. People want to capture the moment. Thank you, ladies. You all may want to take a seat for our next recognitions, and I'll call you back in a moment, okay? I would also like to note, while we're talking about fine arts, that we do have Osborne students who had the pleasure of presenting beautiful artwork at the Manassas Museum, which will be on display through April the 17th. The Impressions art display features the paintings, mixed media works, sculpture, and drawings by our students. The exhibit offers students the opportunity to be guest curators as they choose works to be displayed, create frames or mounts, and write descriptive labels for their own work. So it would behoove people to go by there and check out some of that artwork. I wanted to put that plug in for them. This is an exciting spotlight that we're about to see. On March the 14th, 15 Osborne students attended a very special event at the White House. The communications office was contacted by the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History in New York, inquiring about our interest in having our Lone High School be one of 3 selected high schools in the metropolitan area for an opportunity to interact with the cast of the Broadway musical Hamilton, an extremely popular show based on the life of Alexander Hamilton. Because this involved U.S. history students who would be responsible for working on a special project for the event, Carol Woodbeck, the AP U.S. History teacher and Social Studies Department chair for Osborne, facilitated the intense preparation the students were involved in for the event. Not only did the students have an opportunity to meet and interact with the staff or the cast of Hamilton, they were also greeted by the President and First Lady Obama. I'm going to ask Mrs. Woodbeck to come to share a little bit about the experience, and she will also present some of these wonderful students who were able to attend this exclusive event. You all will then have the privilege of seeing a taste of what they presented while they were there. Ms. Woodbeck. That's okay.
Hi. It was beyond exciting, the whole experience. Instead of being token high schoolers, we were the event. So it was really neat. The kids got to interact with cast members after we met Mrs. Obama first, and the cast members took selfies with them. I mean, like, it was very inclusive, so it was very exciting. So I'm going to call their names, and they can come forward. And we had four groups of 3 students and then 3 solo performances. It worked out so well that the intent of the program was designed by the Gilder Lehrman Institute and Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is the author and star of the musical Hamilton. And the goal was to have kids see how the documents and primary sources can have life breathed back into them, and you could create and bring it up to date. And it worked beautifully. I mean, I watched the kids first, they were all just going to do a Hamilton thing, and it was all going to be Hamilton, or, and then they all delved into it, came up with very unique ideas, and made super performances out of them. Ryan Dahmer, Lindsay Donovan, Jeffrey Johnson, Abby Monroe, Javier Ordonez. I know, it's awkward. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Vivian Penders, Angel Seklawi, Abby Silber, Anna Silva, Jack Spall had to work, Sean Williman, Nia Williams, Emily Williams, and Juan Zapata. And I know it would sound biased, but I think our kids had the best talent. We got to see little bits of the other ones. I know, but truly, they were super creative. They came up with all different kinds of things. So, who wants to go first? I just have 2 groups are gonna perform. Okay. All right. So Nia Williams, Jeffrey Johnson, and Juan Zapata.
We're going to plug in our music that we got to sing to by Jeffrey.
Or sideways.
They're trying to determine if they should face you all or face the audience.
The audience.
This way. And put our backs to us. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. That'll work. Do you want
I get it ready.
Who put a doctor in charge of this?
Is it about the Boston Tea Party?
Parliament repealed all the township duties, except those that put taxes on our favorite goodies. The British want power, but all we want is freedom. Who'd have thought the Sons of Liberty could ever beat them?
I was only 16 when I threw some Boston tea on December 16, 1773.
My name is John Andrews. I was walking down my house, saw some people dressed as natives, and disruption came about.
I was meeting in the town when the soldiers came around. Then the Brits called fire, but no fire could be found.
Saw commotion by the sea.
Then a man was on his knees.
Who would have thought the price of tea
Would make us Sons of Liberty.
Parliament repealed all the township duties, except those that put taxes on our favorite goodies. The British want power, but all we want is freedom. Who'd have thought the Sons of Liberty could ever beat them? Controlling ships at sea, for Hope, Bruce, and Coffin. We dressed as native people, made what to be talking. In less than 4 hours, we'd all committed treason. Who'd have thought the tea could lead us colonists to freedom?
For the wrongs that were done today, the colonists will surely pay, just like the tea thrown in the bay. All their freedoms washed away. It's time for Parliament to chat about punishing the attack. We need something to strike back. Wait, the intolerable acts. Our courts will be closed, no longer to be exposed. And if our soldiers need a home, colonists shall feed and clothe. If there's trials to be held, then our government runs the stands. And if the colonies need to meet, they must wave our royal hand. These are the rules that they must follow as an effect of disrespect. And just because we have the power, we passed an act on Quebec. We supplied them as our own. Then they go and break our laws. They threw the tea to buy their freedom, but didn't know of the cost.
And our next group is a poem, sort of reenactment, done by Phyllis Wheatley, originally an African-American poet from the era. Ladies? Abby Monroe, Emily Williams, and Ambiance Elazari.
This is a poem on Phyllis Wheatley and her impact on America. 'Twas mercy brought her from her pagan land. Phyllis Wheatley, age 7, or so they identified her as by her little baby teeth slipping from her gums like she slipped through Africa's fingertips, was our first published African-American author.
A slave, lucky enough to be allowed to learn,
To read,
to write, had the motivation,
aspiration,
inspiration, and struck gold from her quill pen, and wrote to fill a gap betwixt the white and black. It took 145 poems to prove that blacks had something in their head, that they were worth more than labor, more than empty space.
Hymn to humanity, pleading with someone to see the potential in thee, Phyllis Wheatley neatly paves the path for revelation, reminding everyone that blacks had a God too, that every Christian can be refined and join the angelic train. It was her destiny. God sent her me, she said, with wavering faith, but wrote poems promoting her race. So sorry.
Since that day, people have praised her name, but she died too early to claim her fame. Phyllis was a bright jewel she aimed to strive and comprehend. Her contribution led to more support for abolitionists. They finally believed that they could really win this. Without Phyllis, no one saw their potential. But her reign over words didn't stop at her friends. She went presidential. George Washington was astounded and amazed by her power and confidence in her praise.
Today, African Americans are still fighting for the rights. Some are fighting for their lives. And night after night, they live in fear of being
Hurt,
emotionally,
Physically,
mentally. Most of us don't know what it's like to be afraid to walk down the street in the middle of the day and wonder if they will be hurt.
Phyllis Wheatley died alone and uncared for, but her poems live on and give courage to those still here.
To speak out and create something from that fear.
land on that blissful shore, and become unsafe no more.
Thank you.
See, we won the talent. Clearly we were really good. All kinds of varieties. So we had songs and we had readings and sort of just individual dramatizations. Thanks, you guys.
Oh, are we done
Well, yes.
with them?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. I would like the chairman and the superintendent to come down for your picture with them. Mr. Chairman, did you have something you wanted to say? Did you have something you wanted to say? Okay. We're gonna have to kind of group everybody together. Yeah, no, kind of, y'all gonna have to kind of stack up a little bit, front. There you go. We're working it out.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Brett.
One more. Perfect. You got it,
Okay, if I say this, the students will probably know what I'm talking about because I was not in the room where it happened, right? I wasn't in the room where it happened, where they were able to do their presentation, but I can say on behalf of the school system that the organizers of this event were so thoroughly impressed with Osborne students. As Ms. Woodbeck indicated, you know, from what I understand, they captured exactly what the creators of this intended. And I just was so proud, and I could just say, you know, any of them could probably stand on that Broadway stage. Even though it was geared towards U.S. history students, they were able to tap into their gifts and their talents, and it shone through right there at the White House in that East Room. So I think it was just an exciting event, not only for them, but for others that were there to witness it. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you so much for representing Manassas City Schools so well.
Drives me nuts. Goosies. I got goosies. I want to say, shut up. Okay, I apologize to J-Lo. This was absolutely incredible. I was moved, and this is what Manassas City Schools is all about. You guys represent us so wonderfully.
Yes.
I'm very proud to be part of this. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have one more. Stay right there. That was awesome. We actually have one final spotlight for the evening. Manassas City Public Schools was recently informed that the school division is the recipient of the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the current budget from the Government Finance Officers Association. This award is the highest form of recognition in governmental budgeting. In order to receive the award, MCPS had to satisfy nationally recognized guidelines for effective budget presentation. The guidelines are designed to assess how well an entity's budget serves as a policy document, a financial plan, an operations guide, and a communications device. The submitted documents must be rated proficient in all 4 categories and the 14 mandatory criteria within those categories in order to receive the award. When a Distinguished Budget Presentation Award is granted to an entity, a certificate of recognition for budget preparation is also given to the individual or the department who is primarily responsible for helping to achieve the award. I am very pleased to present that certificate to Mr. Andy Hawkins, Executive Director for Financial Services for MCPS. Not used to that.
A little bit of a letdown after the kids.
With your coat. There you go. There you go.
They got your back.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Awesome. Community cares. That's right. Congratulations. Thank you. Yeah. That's it.
I don't, my agenda went away, so I guess we're at Committee reports. Mr. Williams, anything on academics?
No, sir, no report.
Mrs. Sebeski, anything on policy?
No report.
Nothing and nothing. Thank you very much. Board member comments. I guess everybody wants to leave. Ms. Maddox, we'll start with you.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say I hope everybody had a fantastic spring break, and now that it is spring break is over, we're getting the ball rolling into the end of the school year. We're starting to wrap things up slowly and surely, which means we have SOL testing coming up and AP testing coming up for everybody, so I hope everybody's really buckling down and we're going to make it a good end to the school year, so thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kiefer?
I too wanted to welcome everybody back. I hope everybody's refreshed and ready to go. I also wanted to just congratulate everybody who was here tonight. As Chairman Demiria summed it up, our kids are the best of the best. I also wanted to say, don't forget, I'm glad to see that some folks are here tonight for the redistricting comment period, as well as there will be one tomorrow night at 7 o'clock here for grades 5 and 6. Also, on Thursday at Metz, we will have Health and Wellness Fair from 5 to 7, so we hope to see the families out there supporting health and wellness in our community. And just to make it brief, I just also have to say thank you. Tonight's a night where we get to the point of talking about moving our budget forward as a board and voting on it. And I just first wanted to take a moment. I don't know if people understand that this process begins back in October, and the amount of hours, time, sweat, tears that go into this by the staff is unbelievable. And so getting to this night would not have happened without all of you in this room and across the system. So thank you. It's just a really big, important thank you for the community to understand. In addition, I just wanted to thank the community, parents, teachers, and others who have had the benefit of talking to a lot lately. And I just wanted you to know that all input is really important. All information is good information. Everything that anyone gives to me personally really helps me do my job to the best of my ability. So I'd encourage folks to continue coming out, to continue to talk to us. Let us know what's on your mind, and just know that from the bottom of my heart, I really do appreciate any input and outreach that folks do in this process. Do I hear a doorbell? It's me? Oh. I'm just that good. I'm just ringing doorbells now. So that's it.
That was your 3 minutes.
Oh, I'm on a time zone now. But anyways, that's my comment, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kiefer. Ms. Purdy?
Yes, thanks. So, tonight has been a great night for celebrating all that is fabulous in our schools, and let's face it, we just saw that we have lots to celebrate. It's also been a tough month for Manassas City Public Schools. And as I've told my kids their whole lives, sometimes you have to do the hard right rather than the easy wrong. And as we just heard from the poem, sometimes a difficult conversation must ensue before improvement can be made. So I'd like to thank everyone, staff, students, parents, residents, for what you're doing to begin this conversation. And I'm referring to the information that's been brought to us over the past several weeks during citizens' comments, meetings with teachers' representatives, publications in the media. We are hearing you, just as Ms. Kiefer indicated. I'm exercised about this both as a public servant and a parent. Like many of you, I have a child that was taught by a great staff and never felt belittled, unsafe, or threatened while attending METS. And I'm very grateful for that. That was not, however, my daughter's experience. Having a firsthand impact with what it was like for a sister, my son was very deliberate in rejecting indifference and non-involvement. He welcomed those being bullies to hang out with him, to sit with him at lunch, and to walk together to classrooms. He never made an issue of anything with any of the aggressors, but it was very, very clear he didn't condone the aggressive behavior. So when I think about what's going on, I guess I have to ask, all of us in this community, surely we can all step up just as he did. As my daughter pointed out to me, even though she lives in Atlanta now, she keeps in touch. She said, "Mom, when we appear to diminish this, we diminish kids like me. And the city of Manassas is better than that." I think she's right. As you've seen tonight, it's good to celebrate the many, many wonderful accomplishments happening in our schools. However, a culture of controlling the message can sometimes be too one-sided. And this is what causes me grave concern, choosing what information to reveal to the public we serve. I subscribe to the principle that we be transparent and accountable for how we conduct the people's business. One of the best expressions of this principle comes from the Brown Act from the 1950s, and it still is around today. The people do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. The people in delegating authority do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. The people insist on remaining informed so that we may retain control over the instruments they have created. I worry there are times when this board falls short in this regard. In our budget deliberations, this board has chosen what is good for the public to know and what is not good for the public to know. Every year, I've requested the same information. In spite of my request again this year, I was informed it was the will of the board to not provide information, such as our overhead rate. For those of you in financial management, you know that is a time-worn best practice metric for measuring fiscal efficiency. It was the will of the board to not reveal projected workforce attrition and trend data to see if attrition has risen or fallen. It was the will of the board to not reveal absenteeism rates and trends so that we can attempt to understand how our students and schools are affected. Parents and teachers are expressing their concern at the perception that these rates are excessive and trending higher and are indicative of low morale among the workforce. The public has not provided this information to reconcile such perceptions because it is not the will of this board to do so. Given the talent and professionalism of our award-winning staff, we know it can be done. As public servants, perhaps we need to be more forthcoming. Virginia statute is pretty clear regarding our obligations as board members. The code states, "A school board shall secure by visitation or otherwise as full information as possible about the conduct of the public schools in the division and take care that they are conducted according to law and with the utmost efficiency." Code also states, "Each school board shall manage and control the funds made available to the school board for public schools." Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to you tonight that I have as full information as possible to verify this board can manage and control funds with utmost efficiency. What I will tell you is I have every intention of acting in accordance with time-tested ethics and principles. I do a lot of this for a living in my day job as a public servant, and I keep a sign in my office that has been with me for years, office to office to office. It's an excerpt from a letter written in 1808 by Thomas Jefferson to Shelton Gilliam. "The same prudence which in the private life would forbid our paying our own money for unexplained projects forbids it in the dispensation of the public monies." So I'm asking again, here too, with regards to the budget and our conduct of the people's business, let's try a little bit harder and step up a little higher, please. Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
Thank you. Good evening. First, congratulations to Mr. Hawkins and his staff for the award. Well-deserved. Congratulations to all the Spelling Bee winners and the Fine Arts Showcase winners who were here and who weren't here. Congratulations to their families and teachers. Their work is great, and if you get a chance to stop by the Manassas Art Museum, please stop by and see it. Shifting gears, I met with MEA recently, and I thanked them for their feedback. Shifting gears again, after our last school board meeting, I took some time off from my work schedule to visit Metz. There's a quote that I like. I'm not sure who it's by, but it says, to have a child is a momentous decision. It's the decision to let your heart live outside itself. And what that basically says is that when you have a child, you are basically giving a piece of yourself and letting it walk around, and anything that happens to them affects you. We realize that as parents, as guardians, as teachers, as staff, you look at all our children that way, and I think I can safely say we look at all your children that way also. There is nothing more important to us than the safety of our children, and we all take that very seriously. And as part of that seriousness and responsibility, I went over to Metz, as I started to say. I met with Ms. Buckheit, toured the building, talked to some staff, to some students, didn't disrupt class, Dr. McGorrick, just to get a feel for what was going on. And I was impressed with what I heard. Ms. Buckheit was frank with me, and I enjoyed the talk with her. But the biggest point I want to convey, I think, is that we all care about our students and the safety of our students. And one student getting hurt or getting bullied or getting affected is one too many. I think that we are on the right path to try to do the best we can with this in terms of eliminating it. And I commend Ms. Buckheit for taking the time to speak with me, because I know she was very busy. But I appreciate all the work that we're doing to try to go forward with that. Moving on. I've been out of town a lot recently. I was in Orlando, Florida, I think a week and a half ago. I've been traveling so much I kind of forget. The Osborne Fine Arts Department went down to Orlando, Florida, to Disney World, and they performed in different capacities. They had the choir perform, the orchestra perform, fine arts, drama performance, guitar performance. I was only able to watch the chorus, so I couldn't be in 5 places at once. But they did a phenomenal job. There was a showcase where the chorus sang 2 songs. They had 2 professors from colleges who evaluated them. And if you could see what they did, you would be thoroughly impressed. And there were people from all over the country there. So just another example of our teachers and our students doing a fine, fine job. And I wish you all could have been there to see it. I think there may have been, guessing, maybe 20 people from Manassas City who were in the audience with us watching the chorus perform. But you would have been proud of them. They did a great job. So thank you to them and to their families, to our department, for doing a great job with them. Speaking of performances, I think you all enjoyed the performances that we heard earlier. I can say firsthand, I heard that song about 50 times. So I could probably recite it and do the rap also. I won't do that now. But what's impressive is that not only did they perform it, those children and their children, one of them is my child, they sat down, they wrote every word out. They didn't have a template. So they sat down and they crafted a song. And my daughter's a songwriter, and she's written hundreds of songs, and I know the process she goes through. But to see them sit down together and collaborate, and to not only put together words, but words that conveyed what happened in the 1700s was phenomenal. They were all truly touched by this once-in-a-lifetime experience. In fact, my daughter downloaded the album. I've heard the album a couple times now, and it has like 30 songs. There's a couple rap battles between some of the founding fathers, and you'd say, how could the founding fathers have a rap battle? But it's really, really impressive. And what's great is that you see these kids thoroughly engaged in history. So I can talk to my daughter about Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and Washington, and she's not just like, oh yeah, those guys. She's really, really entranced, and Juan and all those other folks who've been to my house talking about this stuff. So thank you to Ms. Woodbeck, Ms. Bradford, who accompanied them, to all the teachers, because you don't know what this has done to them and how it affected their lives. And someone mentioned how they performed. They were phenomenal. And we talk about our kids, but this is what our kids do. They're the best of the best. So I wish that we could see that and appreciate that more frequently. Finally, I have a quote I came across last week. In our lives, we all seek to find a comfort zone, a place where we're kind of chilling, kind of moving along. And it's in our work lives, we look for that sweet spot. In our married lives, as spouses, I haven't quite gotten there, so if you need advice from me, let me know. My wife's gone, but comfort zones are where we strive to be. The quote I found this was last week, said that a comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing grows there. A comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing grows there. So as you strive and move around in your daily lives, keep that in mind. There's always something to strive for and move forward. Thank you for your indulgence, and have a nice evening.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Sebeski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think I'll be quite as philosophical as Mr. Williams, but I echo a lot of your same thoughts, and I won't repeat and dwell on some of the same things, but we could go on and on of the great things that go on every day in our wonderful community here in Manassas. I'm going to hit several things. It's been a busy month for a lot of different reasons. We've had many budget work sessions where the board was given the opportunity on multiple occasions as individual board members to ask questions and put those questions forward before we finally did our final markup a week and a half ago. So this board continues to have high expectations of all of our staff as we put a budget together to make sure that we are very fiscally responsible and transparent to this community and all that we do. And I very much appreciate all the staff's work in helping us with that, and congratulate Mr. Hawkins to you and your staff for helping with that and recognizing your award tonight. The safety of our children is always a priority to this board. It always has been since I've become a member of this board, and I can't imagine that it always will not be. Our children and our staff are vitally important, and in the time I've been on this board, many, many changes have happened to ensure that safety. Nothing is ever perfect, but that process continues to be perfected on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, whatever is needed. And I appreciate all of our staff that continue to help to make sure that those safety measures are considered by this board and then executed and put into place once we agree that that's what needs to happen. I too, along with many members of this board, had the privilege of meeting with some of the members of the Manassas Education Association. For those of you who don't know who that is, that's our teacher organization. And I think we had a lovely conversation and a lot of things were discussed. I want to thank them for their time. One of the last things I'd like to bring to everybody's attention for now that we're back from spring break and going forward with the spring, the school board student liaison position was put out at the beginning of March. That does close on Friday. The paperwork for any student, a junior, sophomore or junior at Osborne High School that is interested in serving on this role up here does need to submit that paperwork to central office by Friday. All the information is on the website. I really hope that students are considering it. I think it's been a great experience, I can say, as us as board members. This is our third year in completion, and the students have played a vital role in helping us do a better job up here to serve this community. Last but not least, I just wanted to comment to the students. Every time we have students in here, I think I'm never going to be so impressed as I was the last time, and every time I get more and more impressed by what they do. So I just want to say that we have great students led by great teachers doing great things in our community, across this region, and in some cases across this country. And I don't know that we as a community always recognize it because we see it every day, but I recognize it and I appreciate all that goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Bushnell?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Williams, your quote touched me deeply. I think the notion of when you have children, you let your heart live outside itself resonates with me. It resonates with me as a father, and it resonates with me as a school board member, that when you have children, you want them to accomplish as much as they possibly can, and you want them to be happy. You want them to have a fulfilling life. And it's the first time for many of us when you have your first child that you, maybe your spouse is there too, but it's the person that you would put their life ahead of yours and that you would value them above all else and that you would sacrifice everything for them. I think sometimes for me, and I think for the other members of this board, when you then become a school board member, it puts that same feeling on an enhanced level. That once I had 2 children that went to this school, now I have 7,591. I relish in their accomplishments. Clearly, their education is our primary mission, but there's so much more that happens in their lives in our schools. So their safety is of paramount importance, and their accomplishments in things other than education. Their accomplishments in sports and music and spelling bees and all of the other things that happen in schools. And so I think that when Mr. DeMaria earlier talked about getting goosies, I think that we get goosies all the time, and some of them are positive and some of them are negative. And that you feel the joy and the incredible intellectual capacity that took place in those performances. Yes, the singing was good, but the overall, the knowledge they gained in that, I mean, it's on so many levels that you go, oh, that's what it's all about, right? And you can see the same things, I think, sometimes on the stage. You can see the same things on the sporting field. You can see the same things when those little kids got up here and had won prizes in the spelling bee. On the other hand, when you hear about safety concerns, that is a negative goosey. It's something that I think touches all of us in an extreme fashion. So thank you for sharing that quote. And I think that, to me, is what community service on a board like this is all about. That we need to make sure that we consider all of these children. Every child in these schools is our child. And we owe it to each and every one of them to make sure that they have the best educational opportunity possible, that everything we do is crafted not for the whole, not for the middle, but for the success of every individual student, for the safety of every individual student, and for the education of every individual student in this school board. For the 26 years that I've been doing this, that's been my top priority, and it remains the top priority, and I believe it's the top priority for the majority of members of this board. So thank you, sir, for letting me wax a little bit poetic.
Thank you, sir. Robert?
Tough acts to follow, sir. Congratulations to all of the students. And the presentations were powerful. Hopefully in a little while we'll get down to board matters. We'll talk about salary schedules and budget and CIP, redistricting hearing, and take actions based on that. But to Mr. Bushnell's point, every deliberation, every action we take, as Dora Brooks taught me some years ago, is it's about the kids. It's about the academics, the arts, the athletics, and let's just call it the achievement. And watching the presentations here this evening, hearing Mr. Williams talk about Osborne students in Orlando representing themselves, and we're talking about specifically the arts, but it's academics, it's everything. I do question why when 3 high schools in the DC metropolitan region are in the high school, why none of us saw that on TV. The media can find everything wrong to put out there and no reason to put out the positive. So for that, I do thank staff for sharing that here this evening.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I've got a few things. I'm not going to reiterate everything we saw here already. We know what we're talking about there. On a personal note, I've lived in this city for 40-some years, and it's a really small town. So I went to work yesterday, I went to work today. I'm here tonight, everything is fine. Last Tuesday, I did suffer a very mild heart attack, and everything is fine. I don't want the rumors to start, not that we have rumors in this city. My cardiologist called it a baby heart attack. He also said my heart was pristine, except for that little blockage. Except for that little thing, it was pristine. So if anybody talks to you about this, because it is Manassas, everything is fine. Those of you that like me, nothing will change. Those of you that don't, nothing will change. I am what I am. Speaking of room, and that's the end of it, and I'm fine. So when everybody says, are you okay? I'm fine. Everything's good. And I appreciate your thoughts and concerns, if you have any, ahead of time. We do have lots of rumors in this town, lots of talk. We've had lots of letters, lots of speakers about things going on in our schools. We've heard from those people, and it's very important that we hear from those people. But everything everyone says is not necessarily true. Just because someone gets up here and speaks to us, it is not gospel. Just because someone writes to us does not make that true. There are more than one side to every story. As a board, we have to keep an open mind. These issues may come back to us before us for action. And we should not be discussing such matters in public. We cannot let one or more persons' view of the situation over-influence our opinion until we have all the facts and as much evidence as possible. I, for one, will not allow someone who threatens to take my position on this board to influence my decision on this or any other matter. We take the safety and education of our children very seriously, and we act accordingly. As for our staff, I have the utmost confidence that they have the best interests of our kids at heart, and that they are taking the correct steps to protect and educate our kids. As far as the budget questions that were brought up earlier, early in the budget season, I asked the board, and they concurred, that all questions be asked in a timely manner. We had a list of questions come in after budget markup and one day before spring break. The will of the board was not to burden the staff to answer these questions given the late date. This board is not hiding anything, and to infer so is wrong. If questions were asked in a timely manner, they would have been answered. This board is transparent and not hiding anything at all. No matter what you hear, we're not afraid to let out any information that is requested and pertinent. But this board is not going to burden our staff, which was short-staffed before spring break, to have answers before tonight on a budget session that was months and months long. These questions could have been answered long ago and answered easily. To put them all at the end is just wrong. Thank you very much. We will move on now to citizens' comments. I'm going to read this disclaimer here, and it will pertain to both citizens' comments and the public hearing on redistricting. At this time, we welcome citizens who wish to speak about services, policies, and affairs of the City of Manassas Public Schools. Because we have an agenda to complete, we ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes. We appreciate the time you have taken to be here. We treat citizens' comments as a public hearing, and we do not engage in conversation with speakers. The lack of an immediate response to your comments should not be taken as a lack of interest or concern. Please note that matters which are properly the subject of closed meetings, such as those related to performance of school personnel or individual student concerns, may not be discussed during this time. Do I have anyone signed up, Ms.? Okay, we have no one signed up. On citizens' comments, does anyone have anything they'd like to talk about for 3 minutes that is not concerning redistricting? Ms. Spall, could you please come up and introduce yourself and tell us who you are?
Can you please sign up, please?
Oh, and you got to sign up over here.
Really, my name?
Yes, you do.
I have to do it before I talk?
All right, you can talk first. Before you start our time. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on citizens' comments? And if so, if you could come down here and sign up so that we can expedite this. That's a Osborne High School word.
Need my address
Ms.
and everything?
Spall. No, just give your name.
My name is Anna Spall. I guess I used to be a student in the City of Manassas. Something I've learned from my time in Manassas and my very short stint in the adult world is that simply complaining about something or attempting to avoid blame does very little to promote change. I'm extremely grateful for the education that I received in these schools, and though I didn't experience bullying in my time, I know it happened and was particularly a problem at Metz. I was heartbroken to hear the news about the incident that occurred, but I am proud of how quickly and efficiently the board and the principal reacted to implement new safety measures. Of course, just monitoring the problem isn't enough, so I'll end with what I might have thought if I was still in Faith's seat, but that moving forward, we should always be pushing for more parent involvement and building a greater sense of a supportive community.
Thank you, ma'am. It's nice to have you back.
Thank
Ms. Bushrod?
Good evening. I don't know if it's good for you to know my name or not. I'm Sandra Bushrod Thompson. I'm not a citizen of the city of Manassas. I work for you. My concern tonight is there was some discussion about things the board may have disclosed or may not have disclosed. It was not the first thing on my list, but one thing I wanted to share, I was able to share in discussions with some of the board members, and we thank you for your time. Sometimes there are things that are not made public to us, maybe unintentionally. One of the things we discussed over the past week while I was supposed to be on spring break was the elimination of family and consumer science at the middle school. And it was mentioned that sometimes when you get response from parents, different actions might be taken. Our concern was that it was never really publicized that family consumer science was going away in the middle school, and therefore maybe parents didn't have the ability to speak up and voice their opinions. So even though you might not want to unintentionally, that's double negative, you might not want to hide something by not publicizing and telling people what's going on, then it is unintentionally undisclosed. How's that for double negatives? So I wanted to voice that with you. And again, we talked about family and consumer science and how important it is. And I heard you say you have done your final budget markup. So I don't know what might come from this discussion or what input parents could now give, or is it too late this year, maybe consider next year. But it is very important to our students that as we look at the students who presented tonight, they have found their niche. They are in the public eye, and they're comfortable with it. But all students don't fit that niche. And I would like for us to please remember to be open-minded about the diversity of our students, the different skills that our students have. So while we celebrate, and I truly celebrate because I love what I saw tonight, but by the same token, we have other students who don't fit that niche, who may have a niche, but they only will find it if you give them the opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, since no one else came down, I assume everybody's done with citizens' comments. We'll move on to the public hearing of redistricting for pre-K 4. I also have no one signed up. Does anyone want to speak to that? Okay, I will speak to that very quickly. Thank you to our staff for listening to the public comments we got before and doing the right thing and taking their comments to heart and working on that. That was very well done. I really appreciate that. Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda. Can I get a yeah?
The school board of the city of Manassas adopt the consent agenda as well.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Albrecht, second by Mr. Bushnell, that the City of Manassas School Board approve the consent agenda as modified. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries 7-0. Thank you. We move on to discussion agenda and redistricting process update.
Mr. App?
That's the wrong presentation.
She'll find it.
It's there somewhere.
That's okay, you got a lot of stuff going on. Are those kids gone? We could use another song. More than one way to skin a cat.
There it is. Okay, good evening, Chairman DeMaria, members of the board, and Dr. McGuire. This evening, the intention is to provide you all with an update since the last board meeting. I believe it was on March the 8th. First, as a reminder with the redistricting, this thing's not, I'm going to move this way, it's like chiming. With the update on the redistricting process, we're sort of in phase 3 with the open hearing tonight and then again tomorrow with grades 5, 6. We continue to collect comments, and we will continue to collect comments until April the 8th, and then come back to the board on April the 12th for a vote. So that's just the slide that you've seen before and where we are. Again, reminder of the redistricting goals, and for the viewing public, I know the board has seen this multiple times, is to balance the attendance areas with our school capacities, to account for future growth, to keep neighborhoods together as much as humanly possible, to increase our efficiency with transportation, to create a transparent and open process, to include community input, to eliminate trailers as our home rooms, and to balance our free reduced lunch at all of our schools. Again, as a reminder, this is the current boundaries that we have today. And again, I continue to use this example. When you look at Jenny Dean, which is the light blue, it continues throughout the entire city of Manassas, which one would potentially question in regards to overall transportation efficiency. So when you see this in future slides and our proposal, you will see how that changes pretty significantly. This slide reminds the board and our public that one of the goals of balancing our free and reduced lunch is, if you look at that third column, currently we range from 49% at Round to 70% at Baldwin. And one of our goals was, with the committee, was to constantly look at that and always stay within 10% from within all 5 schools. So this slide talks about the feedback for Plan A. This was after our community engagement meeting, and as a reminder, we received 35 comments from 16 different addresses. That was as of March the 1st. We reviewed those comments, the committee came together, and we brought forth a Plan B for consideration with the board. So Plan B, you can see that, and I'm going to use the mouse here for a minute, Mrs. Miller. But from this, the changes were up in this area to move to Hayden to balance attendance areas. Down here in this area is an area that we had in the Weems area, and that's moving back to the Hayden under Plan B. Those are 2 of the most significant changes under Plan B. And again, the changes from Weems to Hayden, one of the changes was the Stonewall Peabody Beauregard, and you can see those other streets that live on the side of Route 234 at Hayden, that now under Plan B, they stay at Hayden. Change 2, Battle and West Street, which is near Old Town, but close to Hayden, is again to keep that at Hayden. And then from Hayden to Weems, the Piney Point, Willow Glen, Laurelwood zone, that's part of the Point of Woods on that section I showed you just a minute ago, and the rationale behind that was truly to balance the numbers with our capacity. And the same thing with change 4 with Georgetown South and specifically Taney Road. I believe there's 17 townhomes on Taney that go to Jenny Dean, and all the rest would go to Round. And again, that's to balance our numbers overall, as the slides you'll see in the next couple slides. So this slide represents what the balance of free reduced lunch looks like with Plan A and B. And you can see in Plan A and B on that third column in the middle that it made no change to Baldwin, but made 1% change either up or down at the other 4 schools. And over on the far right, there were many questions, and continues to be questions about our transfer students for our fourth grade exit grade. And under Plan A, that was 185 of our current third grade students. And under Plan B, it brings it down to 151 students. This is rather small. I hope that the viewing public can see this, but these are the numbers of students under Plan B that would change under Plan B and under Plan A. And on the far right-hand column, you can see that under Plan A, it affected 786 students, grades pre-K through 4. And under Plan B, it would affect 698 students, again, pre-K through grade 4. So what has happened since the last board meeting? Since the last board meeting, through Routibus, we've received 23 new comments from 17 different addresses. And from these bullets below, 5 endorsed Plan B. They just went into Routibus and had concerns under Plan A, and they took the time to go back into Routibus to say that they'd like Plan B and endorse that. 5 comments were from 2 different families. They had concerns changing from Hayden to Weems. 4 inquired what was the status of my address? So looking into their specific addresses, there were no changes. So they just put in their address and said, what does this mean for us? And they remain unchanged under Plan B. 4 families have concerns about being changed from Hayden to Dean. There were 2 questions related to school enrollment. One had a concern about going from Dean to Round. One had a concern about going from Dean to Baldwin. And then there was one specific staff comment from a Manassas City Public Schools staff. So again, to remind the board of the things that have been concerns with the community, the transfer policy will stay in effect. There's some questions out there about do we only accept 4 transfer students per grade level per school? That is what the current regulation, and not necessarily regulation, but what the practice has been within JT-R. Superintendent and I talked about that today, and if we can, and the numbers allow us to, during the transfer process in July and then approved in August by this board, we could, if the numbers allow us to, permit more than 4 per grade level. Special education and 504 students, a lot of our special education families are concerned about the service. What would it be like at another school? Again, we have qualified special education staff at all of our buildings that would also oversee 504 students. Employee school assignments, what will happen, an example might be Weems, where their numbers will go down and Round will go up. What will happen to staff transferring? We believe, and we continue to monitor this, that through attrition, the specific principal would have the opportunity to hire for their school. For example, Mr. Baldwin will probably be able to hire opposed to accept a transfer based on what's happening with intent forms from our staff. And the last thing is crossing major roads. We're trying not to do that. Again, one thing that really came to me over spring break is that's easier said than done in some situations. We use our major roads as a boundary, and no matter what we do, there's people that live right on the boundary zone. Stonewall's a good example. One side of Stonewall might be going to Hayden, one side of Stonewall might be going to Weems, depending on where Stonewall is. Same thing with Dumfries Road. One side might be going to Round, the other side might be going to Baldwin. So the hard part with this whole process is someone is always on the boundary zone, because people live on the boundary zones. Moving on to intermediate, again, to remind the public that this will go into effect in 2017. The blue section that you see on the slide is for Mayfield, and the green slide would be Mayfield. Again, as a reminder to the viewing audience, the capacity is significantly different to Baldwin 5-6 at 300, a little bit over 300 students, where it's over 1,100 at Mayfield, and that's why the sizes are different on the slide. And this number, this slide shows this, where under the current proposal, 936 students in 2018 would be at Mayfield, 286 at Baldwin, and our free reduced lunch is dead on, if you will, at 62% and 63%. And you've seen this slide before, so who would go to the specific schools, where Mayfield is positioned in Manassas City and Baldwin. They're pretty close to each other, if you will. So Round and Baldwin have some students that go to both Baldwin and to Mayfield, and those numbers are reflected on this slide. As far as 5-6 comments, at the last presentation, I shared with you that there was one comment from one address. Well, now there's 2 comments from 2 addresses. So we're not recommending any changes at this time for the intermediate 5-6 community feedback. And those strike-throughs are there for a reason, okay? They're not edits, but this is where we are. Tonight, we had the public hearing. Tomorrow, at 7 p.m. here at City Hall, we will have the public hearing on grades 5-6. And again, as a reminder, the community can continue to provide us with any comments on Route-A-Bus through April the 8th. And then on April 12th, we will come back to the board recommending approval. And as a reminder, pre-K through 4 would begin in August of 16. Grade 5 would begin in August of 17. Grade 6 in August of 18. And then we need to really get busy. We're working on it to some degree now, as much as we can. But spring will be busy because we need to inform the families that are transferring. We need to organize an open house for families that wish to go to the new school so they can see the new school that their child will be going to, and that purpose. So that's why April 12th will be busy thereafter. And I believe that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions or comments? Ms. Besky?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. App. This has been a lot of hard work over many months, and I appreciate your attentiveness to everyone's comments and getting back to their concerns. 70-some concerns that have been come through is important, that our community feel like they get to be engaged and their voice is heard, at least in my opinion. One concern, I guess, that somehow I didn't pick up the numbers before, there's a 20% difference in the free and reduced lunch between Round and Baldwin, and that was one of our goals, and the redistricting was to balance those type of things. Do you have any comment on that?
That's the current. So the current free reduced lunch, I believe 49 is Round and 70 is...
I missed that?
Yeah. Yeah, we can go back to
I'm
that
sorry,
slide.
that's my fault, then I thought that was with the change.
It's the current. I think
Go
there
ahead.
is, that's it right there.
That's it.
No, to the next one, keep going.
There's a 7-point.
Here, 54%, go back. 54% at Round for free and reduced lunch and 74% at Baldwin.
Current.
Okay,
Current school assignments.
Yeah, those are our current.
okay, thank you.
And again, that's based on the addresses in Power School. So, yes.
Welcome to my world.
I
know.
It was like, oh, yeah, I knew you were right.
Trying to be
So, thank
so
you.
smart, and boom, we get shot down. Any other comments?
No, sir.
No. Anyone else? Sir? Mr. Albrecht?
Just staff and the community, thank you for the input and thank you for, I think, the responsiveness the chair alluded to, because I think we all had a paradigm early on that this was just a little tweaking and it would, a little around the edges and 5-10% kind of change, and yet as we look at these numbers, we're talking 20-30% of students, depending upon what you're talking about, are affected. And anybody who's looked at change management and whether you've read, my iceberg is melting or who moved my cheese or whatever it is, change is tough. And we recognize that, but hopefully this board has done it in a transparent way. If you've watched the news, one of our peer municipalities is going through this right now with a whole lot of allegations of what they're doing and what their hidden intents are. I think we've been very open all along. What we're trying to do is create a safer environment for all students, have parity between our schools so we don't have haves and have-nots, and I think we've done that, and I thank staff and look forward to whatever comments we might get tomorrow night.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. App.
Thank you.
I don't think this one's yours. Support employee step review.
Ms. Wingfield.
As shared in budget meetings, this presentation will identify the methodology of the step salary review findings, projected cost of step placement, recommendations, and the employee appeal process. "396 personnel files were reviewed to identify Manassas City Public School work experience and comparable work experience outside of the division. A maximum of 15 years of outside experience was given. This is the same amount of experience provided to teachers. It is important to recognize that the step salary schedule was implemented this year. Prior to July 1, an open-range salary schedule had been used since school year 06-07. No salary increases were provided school year 09-10 and 10-11. In addition, new employees were provided a 5-year maximum of experience credit at the time of hire. 3 years of part-time employment equaled 1 year of service. And finally, it's important to note that employees' pay is a snapshot in time. Pay can be based on market rate, ability to fill a position, and so on. The findings of the review indicated that 88 employees are above the study step placement. 140 employees are at the same step placement, and 168 employees are below the study step placement. The estimated cost to place employees according to the study findings is $533,600, of which $46,992 would come from the school food service fund. It is recommended that employees whose current step is higher than the step placement from the study will be held harmless. Employees whose step is below the step identified in the study should be adjusted effective school year 16-17, and their pay will not be retroactive. Communication about the study was forwarded to employees in a memo last fall, advising them that their personnel files would be reviewed for work experience both inside and outside the division. Pending school board decision, employees will be notified via memo regarding school board findings and recommendations. The support employee step appeal form will be used for a support employee that wishes to appeal the recommended step placement. The appeal must be submitted within 30 days and identify comparable work experience and step placement. Upon receipt of the appeal, the employee's division personnel file will be reviewed again, and the employee will be notified of the review.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any questions or comments? Ms. Robrick.
Ms. Winford, for the record, because I know we've had a lot of discussion about this, so about the 25% of the employees who, I think your language in here said, they're above the step. And they'd be, again, the words were held harmless. Would you define held harmless?
They would not be frozen on a step. Their placement would not be lowered on the step salary.
Would not be lowered, but would also not be frozen?
That is correct.
Got reservations and issues with that, but yes, it's my only question.
He was thinking. I could tell. Anyone else? No? Thank you very much, ma'am. We'll move on to action agenda, 2016-2017 salary schedules. Dr. Lord, do we have a presentation on that?
No.
Okay. Then stop asking. Sorry. Can I get a motion for that?
Mr. Chair, I move that the school board of the city of Manassas, should lost my place.
Here.
There we go. Approve the FY 2016, FY 2017 salary schedules as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Albrecht, second by Mr. Williams, that the school board of the city of Manassas approve the fiscal year 2016-2017 salary schedules as presented. Is there any discussion? These were presented to us at a work session, so it's not like we're not seeing these. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Albrecht, second by Mr. Williams, that the school board of the city of Manassas approve the fiscal year 2016-2017 salary schedules as presented. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries 7-0. Thank you, everyone. Health insurance premiums.
Mr. Chair, I move that the school board of the city of Manassas approve the FY 2016, FY 2017 insurance plans and premiums as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Albrecht, second by Mr. Williams. Is there any discussion? I will say that this was also presented to us at a work session, so this is not new to us. I have a motion by Mr. Albrecht, second by Mr. Williams, that the school board of the city of Manassas approve fiscal year 2016-2017 insurance plans and premiums as presented. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries 7-0. We are rolling.
Mr. Chair, I move that the school board of the city of Manassas approve the fiscal year 2017 through fiscal year 2021 capital improvement plan and 5-year forecast as presented, and authorize the school board chairman to transmit these schedules to the city council of the city of Manassas in accordance with the school board policy, state code, and our joint budget agreement.
Second.
I'm not certain that is still part of the joint budget agreement. Sir, I think we have a funding agreement. I don't believe that we have.
Yeah, it's a funding resolution, isn't it?
It is. So I don't believe that it is a requirement of the fund resolution. I don't think we currently have a joint budget agreement any longer. So
But if I say that, I amend my motion to be in accordance with school board policy and state code.
I think that would be more accurate.
Mrs. Spesky?
I'm fine with that, sir.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion, no, Ms. Purdy?
Yes, I will keep this brief. Some of the information that went into putting the CIP together was based on analysis that was done by a contractor, and they had a year-to-year recommendation, which the staff changed. I had some reservations, and I mentioned them during our work session about those changes, and we haven't gone back and readdressed those. So I worry about the risk posture of this. Now, I understand the CIP can be changed again, but I really, really strongly recommend that we really take a deep look at that particular capital improvement planning analysis.
Okay, anyone else? I have a motion by Mr. Albrecht, second by Ms. Sebeski, that the school board of the city of Manassas approve fiscal year 2017, 2021 CIP and 5-year forecast as presented, and authorize the school board chairman to transmit these schedules to the city council of Manassas in accordance with school board policy and state code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Carries 6-1. Mrs. Purdy dissenting. And
Mr. Chairman, I move the school board of the city of Manassas approve the FY 2016-2017 budget as presented in an amount of $119,704,916, and authorize the school board chairman to transmit these estimates to the city council of Manassas in accordance with school board policy and state code.
Second.
motion by Mr. Bushnell, second by Mr. Albrecht. Is there any discussion? Ms. Purdy?
I do have some comments. This is going to be a place where we're going to have to agree to disagree. I have asked year after year for the overhead rate before we voted on procuring the Munis financial management system. I was very specific. I did my own homework. I checked with the Munis website, called the company, verified with staff that Munis has the ability to do the projections that I've asked for. They can do them in reports in minutes. Before, this board used to publish something called the Blue Book. Before I was on the board, I used to be able to, by myself, use the information in that Blue Book to calculate the overhead rate in about 30 minutes. So We got an award-winning staff. I don't think my requests were burdensome. Part of the reason that I waited for the markup session to ask for that information was the overhead rate was one of the only metrics that I could think of to figure out how to reconcile some inconsistencies that did not come up until that markup period. We were given a budget that zeroed out the contingency fund. I specifically asked, it looks to me like we have margin, and we were told yes, but we were also told that the budget was very tight, and part of the discussion on the board was to restore the contingency fund, even though the original recommendation was to take the revenue that was coming from the state and put it into fund balance. So that does kind of beg the question of how tight, how efficient are we? So, again, there's some things about the budget that can't be reconciled. And so again, I can't support this.
Anyone else? I have a motion by Mr. Bushnell, second by Mr. Albrecht, that the school board of the city of Manassas approve the fiscal year 2016-2017 budget as presented in the amount of $119,704,916 and authorize the school board chairman to transmit these estimates to the City Council of Manassas in accordance with school board policy and state code. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Carries 6-1 with Mrs. Purdy dissenting. I see nothing else on my agenda. Dr. McGorrick?
Mr. Chair, move the school board of the city of Manassas adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Albrecht, second by Mrs. Sebeski. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries 7-0. Thank you, everyone.